Actually, now, welcome to Nice and Blunt. Got the audio rolling. Last time we had some difficulties with the audio. I think it's going to be fine. Actually, no, it was video last time. And we're still getting things together here on the live stream, but it's nice to be back. Pretty sure it's going to run smoothly this time. But here I am on Underdog. I think this is the best place to mock draft. And if you're new to Underdog and you'd like to draft with me or just get a good deal, up to $100 matched on your first deposit when you use promo code Nice and Blunt. The link in the description will take you there. And if you use my code Nice and Blunt, you will get up to $100 matched on your first deposit. So now that I have that promo out of the way, just a reminder my Patreon is also launched. All my rankings are there at the moment, as well as all my win loss picks. But we're going to head into this Poodle draft, $7 buy in tournament setting. And just a reminder before I get into it, what the roster would look like. We have 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 1 quarterback, 1 flex, 1 tight end, 10 bench spots, and it's half PPR. So with that in mind, let's get in this Poodle draft and get this thing going. Yes, we would like to enter. And we're waiting for 4 people. So if you're interested and it's already filling up a little bit, you can join me if you'd like. But this should fill up pretty quickly. Hopefully that will be the case. So we'll just wait for this. If you're in the chat, let me know what you think about the poll. Do you think the Ravens will make the playoffs this year? I think that's kind of a toss-up, kind of difficult to fully gauge. But what pick did we get? Number 10. That's a bit rough. That's not ideal for sure. All right, let's get the format kind of situated here. Make sure everything is in view. And I think we're good. Yeah, that's all 12 teams. I'll keep myself up in the corner. But yeah, we're just waiting for this thing to get going. And we got a minute until our pick, basically. Maybe 2 minutes. But someone I target with the 10th pick would be Austin Ekeler. If he's still there at the end of the first round, I think it's hard to get different value. I'm going to have my running back rankings out soon, but I see him in the same tier as Christian McCaffrey. I think he's actually a bit safer than Bijan. I'm not worried about his contract situation. I don't think he's going to get traded or the Chargers are going to let him go. I think once that's sorted out, everyone will remember his upside. And with Kellen Moore as offensive coordinator, he's going to take off another 15 plus touchdowns. He's probably in the books for Ekeler, who, let's face it, has actually been more healthy throughout his career than Christian McCaffrey. And last year, they were pretty close in terms of points on a per-game basis. Goat Mode, welcome to the chat. How's it going? Pretty solid. I don't know if you noticed behind me, I guess I kind of covered it up, but I've been fixing my closet. It had some water damage from the roof recently, and now that that's sorted out and I got it back up and running, it's kind of blocked right now. But I mean, it's a closet. I guess you don't need to see it. But just on a personal standpoint, doing great now that thing's fixed. That was annoying as fuck. I didn't have proper storage. It's fucking with me. But how you doing? Let me know in the chat what's up, who you're excited about this season, and any players you're hoping to target in the draft. Like I mentioned, we're looking for Austin Ekeler with this number 10 pick, and I think there's a high chance we get him. If not, we might get the consolation of Bijan Robinson if they don't both go off the board here at number 8 and 9. But I think we're going to get him. I think Ekeler should be available. Let's hope so. And he is. I'm taking my boy Austin Ekeler. It's not that I don't value Devontae Adams here. It's just that I genuinely believe there's a drop-off, and I know these 2 teams are more than likely to take him. So if I don't, he's not going to be available in round 3, and we'll get our favorite wide receiver when that comes back around. But Ekeler at the top is a luxury. Having that advantage at running back doesn't force you to like really hammer the position too much. And when we get to the end of the 3rd round, it's possible that the value really isn't worth it. Especially in the 4th round, it's a bit tricky unless you're getting like Jahmyr Gibbs, maybe Najee Harris. Those would be my favorite in that range. But wide receiver should be okay there as well. Actually, no, we'll see. We'll see. But Adams is still on the board. Garrett Wilson there, and Jalen Waddle. I think Garrett Wilson might be my preference. I'm a little worried about Devontae Adams. I don't fully trust Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't think they're going to win that many games. They didn't last year, though. But, okay, we don't have that even available to us because he goes off the board. I do prefer Garrett Wilson over Jalen Waddle. Waddle has a huge target share. I mean, 147 targets for Wilson, 117 for Waddle. There's more volume going to Wilson and a little bit less competition. It's not like Tyreek Hill is on this team, so I'm going to go Garrett Wilson. And I'm a believer in the Jets this year. I think as long as Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, they have a legit chance to make the playoffs, and Garrett Wilson is going to be a big reason why. Him and Breece Hall, I think, will be elite players this season. But Goat Mode, doing pretty well, counting down the days until the season starts. Yeah, it's going to happen much faster than you think. Like, once we get to July, it'll be here before you know it. But it's still May. We still have plenty of time to wait it out. It's not the end of the world, but I'm excited too. I'm looking forward to it, and it should be a lot of fun. If you're interested in joining the Subscriber League, Goat Mode, or anyone else that might be watching live or in the rerun, you can email me at niceandblunt@gmail.com and lock up your spot. Hopefully we might have enough for 2 leagues this year, or at least a bigger league than last season. And if you're interested, send me an email. Definitely want the subscribers that care about this channel, watch a lot of videos, to be in it. And if you're watching right now, definitely send me an email if interested. But let's just take a look at some of these rosters now that we're in the middle of round 2. I think this team that took Kelsey is taking the right approach. I think the stack with Mahomes is a little too pricey. And because you miss out on a top 10 wide receiver, if you pass on the position in round 2 when you can still get a really solid, really high ceiling option, I think you kind of put yourself behind the 8 ball later on to miss out on that position. So for pick 6 to go Kelsey and then wide receiver, I do think they took the best available with T. Higgins. I think that's the right approach if you are going to go with Kelsey in the first round. I just don't think the value's good enough with that Kelsey Mahomes stack in round 1 and 2. And I've also seen it so much, I don't feel like it's a unique approach. I feel like everyone is targeting that stack if they start off the draft with Kelsey. And unless you're getting like great value on them, which I guess you can't really with the first or second round, you got to reach on one of them. I just don't like it. I'm not a big fan of it. If you do go Kelsey, just go wide receiver in round 2, unless you get like a player like Eckler fall to you, and it's like towards the end. But another team, let's take a look at what's going on right now. Run on quarterback, which they are the best at the position, but I don't know if it's worth it in the second round. I like Jalen Hurts there, but I'd love to get one of these guys in round 3. I'd feel so much more comfortable if that was the case. But I get it. In this best ball format, you want an advantage, and a player like that is definitely someone that helps you get an advantage. But if you don't get one of the top 3 and you don't get good value on maybe like at least Herbert or Lawrence, then I like to wait until like round 10, if not maybe 9 or 11. Round 10, I think, is the sweet spot where you still get starting caliber quarterback, but for a massive discount. But how much do you got to pay to get into the Subscriber League? Last year it was $50. Last year the buy-in was $50. However, I added $250 of my own to the pot, so we had a total of $750 available in a 10-team league on a $50 buy-in. The winner took home $450. Second place took home $250, or maybe two. Yeah, second place took home $200, and then third and fourth place got their buy-in back $50 a piece. So if you're interested, send me that email. But obviously, no pressure at all to anyone who is watching. No pressure at all. Damn. I don't love this range. I think Calvin Ridley's a reach here. Cooper's okay, but he needs those 9 touchdowns to repeat in order to make this actually worth it. I'm going to go with a player that I think you can't replicate the value of later on. And as much as I am kind of trapping myself into not taking running back again for a really long time, I think there's a legit argument that Najee Harris is back inside the top 10 at that position and is deserving of a third-round pick, especially if it's later in the third round. Like, all of the other players going in this round, other than Breece Hall and Nick Chubb, like Derrick Henry, Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, Ramondre Stevenson, even Saquon Barkley as well, Travis Etienne also. There's legit injury risk. They have missed some games in their career, and there are some more question marks. If those players go down, then Najee would offer the floor that you're looking for a top 10 player. Last season, in the last 9 games for the Steelers, they went 7-2. And Najee Harris was averaging 14.4 fantasy points per game. Those are the numbers I'm looking for, and that's what I'm hoping to get as a floor from Najee Harris. I'd love that type of value. But Cooper's still on the board, and he's fallen a little bit. It might be worth it. Damn. Yeah, he doesn't have anywhere near as much competition as some of these other guys do. And I feel pretty solid with Cooper in round 4. We almost took him in round 3. So this is a solid start when you're at the back of the first round. When you have a later pick, you're kind of in a rough spot early on. But we did get Eckler, a top 3 running back, and Najee, at the worst, is like a top 15 running back. I don't see a scenario where he's outside the top 20 unless he gets hurt, and that's the case with every single player in the NFL. So not worried about running back. And because you only have to start 2 in this format, we're going to move off that position heavily and hammer a lot of wide receivers. We're going to target Aaron Rodgers with the stack. And we might consider Deshaun Watson, but I got to be honest with you, I don't love the value on Deshaun Watson too much. I think he goes a little bit too early. But round 4, I think, is definitely where the value at wide receiver is. Expect a massive run in that position. And that's why I do think it's a legitimate plan, like a safer plan, to take Najee, Travis Etienne, or Jahmyr Gibbs, whoever you prefer of the 3, in round 3 if you do need that position. Like, if pick 9 over here went with running back instead of Lamar Jackson, I think they'd feel a little bit more comfortable with who their RB1 is for this draft. At least later on, it's going to be a little bit difficult with who you're stuck with at RB1 to piece together. But another question here, is there any top 15 guys who you would avoid completely? Let's work our way back from the number 15 all the way to the front. Garrett Wilson, no, I took him. Same with Eckler, so no. Adams, I'm a little worried about it, but he still puts up like 15 touchdowns a season. Last year was still really solid, and I can't imagine Josh McDaniels goes away from that plan, so I still endorse him. I think Taylor's a little bit overvalued. Last year was really concerning, only like 12.5 points per game, 4.5 yards per carry. The year before it was 5.5. I did some stats on him recently, so that's why it's like on the top of my head. But I think that's a bit of a reach. I'd rather go with a wide receiver like Garrett Wilson or Jalen Waddle before I take Taylor. But I think the biggest bust is CeeDee Lamb. I'm not a believer in Dallas at all this year, and I really think Prescott's going to fall off a little bit. CD doesn't really score more than 6 touchdowns either. He's very boom bust. Yes, there's a lot of volume for him, but I don't think this offense is going to be very good, and I think it's going to be so obvious to shut him down in order to beat the Cowboys that he's actually going to fall, kind of disappear a lot in a lot of halves. Like, first half he might be good, but second half maybe like 1 catch. He is very up and down. I'm not a believer in CeeDee Lamb. That would be my bust inside the top 15. Otherwise, it's all legit. I think maybe there's a few players I'd like to see go later, like Bijan maybe a little later. Kelsey, I hope to get a little later, but everyone other than CeeDee Lamb and Taylor, I think, is deserving of a top 15 ADP. We're not going to go running back, as we mentioned. We might go Trevor Lawrence, but I think there's better value later. I think I'm going to go Brandon Ayuk. I think that's the move. We need wide receiver. And I feel very confident in Ayuk's numbers. He has such a good floor, and honestly, last year on a per game basis, he was just as good, if not better, than Debo Samuel. Debo Samuel had a couple more spike weeks, but actually, Debo had a lot of games with less than 12 fantasy points, where there was a stretch where Ayuk was putting up at least 80 receiving yards a game, even without a touchdown. He was getting you those 12 fantasy points on like 6 receptions, 80 yards minimum. So I really trust Ayuk another year where he's going to be more involved in this offense. Kittle's notorious for getting hurt. Debo's notorious for getting hurt. CMC is notorious for getting hurt. Ayuk has dealt with a little bit of injuries in his career as well, but last year was really encouraging, and I think it's even going to be better this season. So I like him a lot, and I love the fact that Chris Godwin's still available. I'm very tempted to go George Pickens. I'm starting to really believe in Pickens, but we're getting a discount slightly on Godwin, and he's the clear number one receiver. Going to get a ton of volume on a team that's going to offer so much garbage time. Like Tampa Bay is the most obvious tank for Caleb Williams team there is. Like there's no way Baker is going to get them a lot of wins, and then Kyle Trask is probably going to start at some point as well. Very clear situation. The Buccaneers are tanking for a quarterback to replace Tom Brady, and they're getting a top 2 pick. So they're going to lose a ton of games, and in the second half, Chris Godwin's going to get so many targets. Eventually, a touchdown's going to pop in there, any random game or so, but I think the volume, he's the most valuable. I could definitely see Mike Evans getting traded as well. A veteran receiver like him who's definitely going to have a down season with Baker. Like, hard to imagine he cracks 1,000 yards. Last year, he was super up and down. If it wasn't for that massive game with like 250 and 3 touchdowns at the end of the season, then Mike Evans would have been really rough to trust. And I just can't imagine they don't try to shop him, if not cut him or something. I feel like Mike Evans is going to be on some other team before the trading deadline. But another question here, are you worried that Patterson or Algier take carries away from Bijan? No, I'm not, because that draft capital on Bijan is just so much of an endorsement, so much of like a vehement guarantee that he's getting a ton of work. And the coach he has, Arthur Smith, is the guy that made Derrick Henry King Henry. So that's the type of coach that knows the value of a running back like that. He's going to use him, give him a ton of volume. And even though Algier and Patterson are there right now, I feel like Patterson may be a cap casualty before the season is over. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like his role is going to be really diminished. He's pretty old. Like he's like 33 entering this season, and although he's been really durable, I just don't see him having a big role there. Algier might steal some goal line touches. That's the type of back that he profiles as. But remember, he's a 5th-round pick at the end of the day, and he didn't start last season as their starter. It just became that way later on when Patterson got hurt. But the reason why I trust Bijan so much is his role in the passing game. You can line him out in the slot, out wide, and he is a true elite pass catcher. He averaged 16.5 yards per reception last year at Texas. Those are elite numbers for a running back, and that's like Tyler Lockett type of numbers. Like really, really solid performance and skill in the passing game for Bijan. So he's a complete back. I don't see him coming off the field just because they put Tyler Algier or Cordero Patterson in the backfield. He'll be lined up running routes many snaps. He's going to play a ton. So I'm not worried about Bijan in the slightest. I would prefer Eckler though. I still trust Eckler because we've seen it. Whereas to your point, you are kind of taking a gamble, a blind risk on Bijan that he is going to be as good as all the hype would suggest. But I think he's really that good. I think he actually is that good. But with our next pick, I think Jahan Dotson's really valuable. We have our top 2 running backs, and they're both really solid. I'm not worried about them getting hurt. So while it is tempting to go running back, I might want better value. Like, let's see if they fall to us at pick 87 rather than pick 82. But the teams behind us are a little thin at wide receiver, and we all have 2 running backs apiece. So I think there's reason to pass on Rachaad White. I'm not going to go running back, as tempting as that is. I'm just going to take some value at wide receiver if I can. Jahan Dotson's off the board, though. I don't like Cooks. I don't love these wide receivers, actually. Not at all. So I'm going to take the volume, the guaranteed workload. And as much as he may not offer, like, an elite ceiling, I'm going to go Rachaad White because there's no chance he has any competition. And as much as I'd like to see him fall even further, he did fall 4 spots to us already. And there's just no one to threaten him for touches. So kind of like Chris Godwin, we're banking on some garbage time. He's a great pass catcher, and Rachaad White's volume is just so guaranteed. They got rid of Leonard Fournette, and no one is going to sign in Tampa Bay. There's no chance Zeke goes to Tampa Bay. Like, Zeke would go somewhere to win a ring. Like, why the fuck would he go to Tampa Bay? Maybe Kareem Hunt goes there because nobody else is interested, but it's not like the contract's going to be high. I feel like Kareem Hunt's going to wait until someone gets injured and fill in for them in that situation. But damn. Again, I don't love this. But maybe we're just going to shore up the last running back of this draft and take our boy Javonte Williams. I'm willing to be wrong on Javonte Williams again. I'm willing to get hurt. Last year, it was really just a matter of no touchdowns for him. He was putting up 8.5 points per game without a single red zone conversion before he got hurt. And yeah, that injury is a little concerning. It wasn't just like a clean ACL. It was also an MCL. So the recovery timeline is a little bit troublesome. But I mentioned in a previous video, their schedule is amazing. Holy shit. The Denver Broncos get Houston in Week 13. Week 14, they get the Chargers, who've had a terrible run defense for a long time. Then they get Detroit, followed by New England, whose forte is the secondary. And then Week 17, the Fantasy Championship, they also get the Chargers again. Maybe it's unwise to project this far ahead. It's only May. But holy shit, that is an elite playoff schedule, and it's definitely a league-winning caliber type of situation in terms of matchups. So this, I know I mentioned I'm going to cool it with running backs earlier on, but there is a lot of good mid-round value, and there are some players I think represent a tier break here in Rachaad White and Javonte Williams that I think are worth taking. I don't think anyone else has kind of like the upside and the floor combined if both these two players stay healthy. Later on, you're just getting backups. Nothing but backups, and it's definitely a much riskier proposition. So now we can firmly forget about running back. If I take more than 5, I would be plummeting the chances of this team. I wouldn't like the roster if that was the case. So I'm going to do that for sure. But quarterback is something we need to consider as we approach round 10. Our next pick is in the 9th round at pick 106 and then 111. So at quarterback, we mentioned Rodgers. That's definitely a guy we're targeting because we have Garrett Wilson. I love that stack. Honestly, it's great value on the quarterback. Rodgers should be top 10 in this system. It's Nathaniel Hackett at play caller again. That's when he was the MVP back-to-back with Nathaniel Hackett. And he's got a ton of weapons, way more than the Packers gave him. So as long as he stays healthy, he's got a chip on his shoulder. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like there's a rejuvenated vibe in New York. It's looking good right now. Maybe it'll change as Rodgers makes things more dramatic over time. But right now, I love the value you're getting. And as a stack with our number 1 wide receiver option, I love the value on Rodgers. So that's a player we're targeting. With our next pick, we also need tight end, so Freiermuth is a player to consider. Evan Ingram is dropping, though, and there's a chance we get him. The 2 teams before us, though, do not have tight end. That's probably not going to happen. So we'll see. Even if we don't get Rodgers, it's not the end of the world. And both of the teams after us have quarterbacks. So I might pass on Rodgers and go Freiermuth because it's safer. There's less of a premium on quarterback, and both of these guys have Damn it, we don't get Fryermuth. That's a bummer. That is a bummer. Fryermuth is also a bit of a tier break himself. Damn. Okay, I'm not going to take any chances, not take any risks. I'm just going to go with Rogers because I do not want to get sniped. That would fucking suck if we got sniped on Aaron Rodgers. But we have our stack. We are sitting pretty, and we have good floors from each of these 4 starting wide receivers on our roster. There's going to be a few weeks where, we don't get at least 2 of these guys giving us double-digit points. I'm pretty happy with this quartet so far. I'm not ignoring you, Goat Mode. I see your question. I'm just waiting for this last pick, and then I'll get to it in just a sec. Promise. But we have Garrett Wilson. We might go with a double stack. I know Lazard is his boy. Rodgers brings him with him. And Lazard scores touchdowns. Last year, 100 targets for him. 6 touchdowns. The year before, 8 touchdowns. As our wide receiver 5, I know. Here's the thing. Odell is in the thumbnail, though. Wouldn't it be? Isn't it probably a more appropriate plan to go Odell? Yeah, I might be cursing myself if I pass on Odell, given he's in the thumbnail. So let's do it. Let's take Odell. I don't hate this value. They're paying him $15 million after all, and I already do have the Garrett Wilson stack. That's kind of too many eggs in the same basket. So it's not that I wouldn't take Lazard, but because I put Odell in the thumbnail, give me OBJ round 10. Okay, one last question before I have to hop off. Would you rather go Madison or James Cook as an RB3? Give me James Cook. At least today, I can't say that Madison is guaranteed to have a lot of touches. Like right now, he's still behind Dalvin Cook, still the backup, and I know he was a 5th-round pick, pretty late investment for running back, but I think Dwayne McBride is actually really interesting and could definitely challenge Madison for touches. Madison did not get a massive contract this offseason, and while he is very interesting, I just think you're guaranteeing more of a floor with James Cook, so I'm kind of speaking more from a redraft season-long perspective here with this answer rather than a tournament setting. Like, if I'm wrong about Madison and he does have that starting job, like maybe Dalvin gets cut or traded or, hurt at some point in the season, that's always a possibility, then Madison would be way more valuable than his current ADP. But everyone already understands that about him, and it's not like you're getting him for a discount. Like, you're getting him kind of at his ceiling already in certain situations. Like, if he only gets half the season as the starter, this value is not, like, super, super great. It's, like, fair. Nothing super special. So I don't love it, whereas James Cook has higher draft capital. He was a 2nd-round pick last year. It's a high-scoring offense. And, Damian Harris has been getting hurt. He's not the safest bet to stay healthy either. I could easily see Dalvin Cook getting cut and finding himself in Buffalo, actually playing with his brother James Cook. So it's all very, very much up in the air. But today, I feel like there's a safer floor with James Cook than Alexander Madison. You're kind of more taking like a flyer on Madison. So it's all about the perspective you have, the plan you want to approach it with. If you already have like really good running backs like Eckler and Najee, like I did, then yeah, maybe go Madison for that high upside because maybe you don't need the depth. But if you waited on running back and you only have like the team that took him has Josh Jacobs, Dameon Pierce, and then no, they went James Conner instead of James Cook. I'm looking at a different team. But in that situation, I'd rather go James Conner than Madison. I think you have a safer weekly chance to enter your lineup, whereas with Madison, you're either getting like 18 points or like 2. James Cook, you're at least having like many weeks with like 12, 13, 14 points, games that are usable and not terrible. So that's my perspective on that. That's how I would approach Madison versus James Cook. But our next pick, we still do not have tight end, and that might be the way to go. There's some solid ones in this range, though, and I've mentioned it in the past. I think Russell Wilson represents a tier break in many respects. And there is a correlation with Javonte Williams. Javonte is a heavy pass catcher, so that is not a bad stack as well. If he's still on the board, these next two teams do not have more than one quarterback like ourselves. I will be going Russell Wilson if that is the case. But we don't know. We don't know if they'll be available. Hopefully this guy goes tight end. If not, I'm going to go like Dalton Schultz. I think he's pretty solid. I don't think Kincaid is worth it. He's a first-round pick at the end of the day. Rookie tight end at the end of the day. But Wilson's still available. And let me just show you the list of quarterback after Wilson. Kyler Murray, Derek Carr, Jordan Love, Matthew Stafford, Bryce Young, Trey Lance, Kenny Pickett, Jimmy Garoppolo. There's a couple names I like in that list, but no one that offers the upside of Russell Wilson with, like, Sean Payton, a head coach, other than, like, Matthew Stafford, who has way more injury risk, in my opinion. So we waited on our quarterback 1, and our QB2 is someone that we can't wait to take. So that was a good pick because C Knox over here took Derek Carr. They were also eyeing a quarterback, and we did not get sniped on our boy, Russell Wilson. Wilson is actually one of the highest drafted quarterbacks I've taken because his ADP is so late. Like I mentioned, like round 10, 11, or 9 is the sweet spot, and he's the latest one going in that range. I think that is the golden backup quarterback spot. And that's why I take Russell Wilson a lot. But not the best value at tight end, to be honest with you here. I'm very tempted to go Jerick McKinnon. I love McKinnon, honestly, and he's falling a little bit. Fuck it. I'm gonna go Jerick McKinnon. I told you I needed a maximum of 5 running backs, and now I've absolutely hit the nail in the coffin. I cannot hit that position anymore. I do have an advantage at that position. I love this starting 5. I guess top 5 at running back here. Eckler, Najee, Rachaad White, Javonte Williams, and Jerick McKinnon. These top 2 are going to get a lot of work in my starting lineup, but I'm going to get a lot of contribution in my flex spot from these last 3, and they all have that ceiling where they can go over 20 points. In any given game, I feel really good with this combination that nobody has like a better 5 than I do. Like maybe they might have a better 3 in some instances. That's hard to find though. Like Pollard and Breece Hall is a better top 2. Barely, in my opinion, but nobody has the 5 that I have. Like this guy is Henry, Joe Mixon, Cook, and Kamara. Honestly, I feel like I prefer mine better. But obviously, I'm biased. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Did I hammer running back too much too early, or do you like this approach with Eckler in round 1, Najee in round 3, Rachaad White in round 7, Javonte in round 8, and Jerick McKinnon in round 12? Let me know what you think in the comment section. But thanks for the takes. Expect an email from me on the subscriber league soon. Have a good night. Thank you, Goat Mode. Looking forward to you joining the subscriber league. If anyone else is interested, you can also email me at niceandblunt@gmail.com to reserve your spot next season. But we still don't have tight end. That's not the end of the world. Like that's one of the positions you can really hammer late and piece it together. I think there's some good value. Maybe Greg Dulcich will still be available. That's our stack with Russell Wilson. But I also love Tyler Higbee. I think he's really valuable. I think a lot of the Rams are really underrated. As long as Stafford stays healthy, they're going to be a playoff team this year. And they don't have a ton of weapons. So guys like Tyler Higbee, Van Jefferson going super late. Fuck. Tyler Higbee literally just goes off right now. But Van Jefferson, especially if you can stack him with Stafford, really, really good value. Stafford is already off the board, though. He's going in the 12th round already. So, yeah, some good value on the Rams late. I think people are starting to wise up to it. It was just so fucking low, so cheap earlier on. Like, sometimes I got Van Jefferson with my 16th, 17th round pick. Now I'm not afraid to reach on him in, like, round 14, honestly, to take him, just to lock him up. His ADP has risen to Pick 168, I think he's worth a top 150. I could take him here, and it wouldn't be egregious at all. So I am a little bit fucked here at tight end, honestly. Yeah, this is actually not very good. But it's okay. I'm going to go Irv Smith. I was really high on Irv Smith last year. I had him as a top 12 tight end entering the season, but then he had that hand injury. He missed a lot of training camp, and he inevitably went down with injury, and they traded for TJ Hawkinson. So he is not a bad player. He's just been unlucky, and he gets a great spot to produce in Cincinnati. And I'm a little bit down on Tyler Boyd this season. Last year, their tight end Hayden Hurst didn't really step up too much, so there is some risk, but Joe Burrow can definitely make anyone a viable fantasy player. It's not terrible, but we've really ignored that position for quite some time. We need to address it pretty heavy. Right now, we can't forget about it moving forward. But I told you I'm willing to reach on him, and I'm not like a super big fan of Juwan Johnson. They added no, give me Van Jefferson. Yeah, I'm willing to reach on Van Jefferson. This high, I think he's actually a top 50 wide receiver overall, and his role as the wide receiver 2 in LA for the Rams is going to be really, really solid. They traded away Allen Robinson to the Steelers. That got a lot of muted coverage because it happened like right before the draft. And then, people shifted. But there's very, very limited competition for targets with Van Jefferson other than Cooper Kupp. Like, Tutu Atwell has been more of a bust. I'm not worried about him. Van Jefferson, then Ben Skoranek, also on the depth chart. So Jefferson is that deep threat that has good chemistry with Stafford. Last year he got hurt in the preseason, and then Stafford went down before he got back on the field, so his season was shot. And the season before that, he put up a lot of points, 8 touchdowns, like 50 catches, 800 yards, a lot of deep passes. That's the type of best ball player that is so valuable in round 14, going way too late, in my opinion, and could be a league winner, could be way, way more valuable than pick 159. He could be, you could argue for him inside the top 100. Like, Van Jefferson over Jameson Williams, I think is actually a better use of your pick at pick 101. That's genuinely how I feel about Van Jefferson. I am kind of cherry picking with Jameson Williams. I think he's a little bit overvalued himself. But it's round 15 with our next pick. 15, 16, 17, 18. We have 4 more rounds, and we need at least 2 more tight ends, if not 3 of them. We really need some tight end depth because it's super thin on this roster. But we don't need to worry about running back, that's for sure. That's our forte here. And wide receivers filling out pretty nicely. We have 6 so far. And I think it'd probably behoove me to go 2 wide receivers, 2 tight ends with our last 4 picks. That's probably the way to go. Taysom Hill's interesting. Taysom Hill could be really valuable. Oh, thank God I scrolled up. I would have missed out on some of these players. But I've mentioned this in a previous draft. I think Dawson Knox value has fallen a little bit too late. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Kincaid is really the guy. But they pay Knox so much. And 6 touchdowns the last 2 seasons. Touchdowns are his bread and butter. And I just don't see him disappearing, especially with a rookie tight end. They have a bad track record of really producing good numbers in their rookie season. So I still think Knox is very, very solid, and I think his value is just fallen so late. I actually like him a lot. I'm not afraid to take him at all. But quarterback might also be a position of need in this draft. I'm a believer in Bryce Young, and he's falling 13 picks if these next 2 teams don't take him. I expect to be sniped on him, though. No, he goes Curtis Samuel. Interesting. Yeah, we're not going to get a player like Bryce Young again. And as much as I like Rodgers and Wilson, there is a bit of risk. We waited so long. I think it is wiser to take 3 quarterbacks in that situation. Damn. He's falling a lot. So is Juwan Johnson, though. But give me Bryce Young. Yeah. I think he's going to be really good at the end of the season. And the talent that he has is really. He's a first round pick. Like, you can't underestimate him. I think the rushing ability is a little concerning. He doesn't have a ton of it, but he is so poised in the pocket. He's going to get a lot of shit done in that offense. And we don't get sniped on tight end, so I'm just going to go with the value here. He's fallen almost 30 spots, but Juwan Johnson did score 7 touchdowns last year, was really getting going in the second half, and he is legit. He is their true tight end. They did bring in Dawson Knox. Not Dawson. What's his name? Foster Moreau, who formerly played with Derek Carr. I'm not too worried about he is more of a blocking tight end at the end of the day, so it's not terrible for Juwan Johnson. But if we weren't getting great value on him, like he went 27 picks after ADP. That's something I can tolerate. That's value I'm not like super upset about with Juwan Johnson. But I don't love him. That's for sure. He's not my favorite tight end. The fact that Taysom Hill is there, along with Foster Moreau, a little bit concerning. But Derek Carr does like to throw it to the tight end. It's not the worst pick in the world. But let's just review our draft real quick. We had the 10 spot, and we went Eckler, Garrett Wilson, Najee Harris, Amari Cooper, Brandon Ayuk, Chris Godwin, Rachaad White, Javonte Williams, Aaron Rodgers, Odell Beckham Jr., Russell Wilson, Jerick McKinnon, Irv Smith, Van Jefferson, Bryce Young, and Juwan Johnson. We have 2 picks left, and I think they both need to be tight ends because we really avoided that position for a long time. I'm not confident that we're going to get more than like 8 or 10 usable weeks out of Irv Smith and Juwan Johnson. We're just hunting for touchdowns at that position at this point. So that's the game plan. The position has been really devalued lately, though. Like, there was a big run on the position in round 9. I was pissed to see Freiermuth get sniped. Ingram fell, but there was another big run in round 13, and we did not get Greg Dulcich. We did not get the stack. And then we didn't get Laporta or Everett coming back to us. I was hoping to do that, in all honesty. But this Van Jefferson pick, I think, is just so nice. I really, really feel confident that Van Jefferson is going to outperform his ADP and is one of those league-winning wide receivers that you can take at the end of the draft. For a home run hit, it's more of a flyer. But let's just take a look at the 2 teams after us to see what their build is like. 2-6-6-2. This guy needs wide receiver and maybe tight end. Yeah, he also needs tight end heavy. That's for sure. So we're definitely taking tight end with the first one. And then this guy has Goddard and Everett. Maybe that's not his priority, but he's probably going to take one too because he has Burrow. He doesn't need quarterback. Yeah, tight end is a very important pick here. We were considering Dawson Knox with our previous pick, actually, so we might go with Knox. I don't hate it, especially pick 202. Yeah, that's good value. Come on, Hamlet. Don't snipe me. Go quarterback. Damn it! He takes Dawson Knox. Fuck. I don't trust a Patriots tight end, especially with Hunter Henry there. Tyler Conklin would be a stack, so that correlates. That's going to be my pick. Sticking with the Jets. We got Rodgers, so might as well do that. But this is our final pick of this draft, and we know we're focusing on tight end. I think Noah Fant is interesting, but with JSN coming in, that's more competition for touchdowns. Also, Zach Charbonnet there. I don't feel too good about it. But in Dallas, the tight end situation is completely up for grabs, and they drafted Luke Schoonmaker in round 2. I think he's pretty solid. I think he's actually really valuable. I kind of like Trey McBride, to be honest with you, but I don't see a lot of touchdowns for him. And let's just consider wide receiver real quick. We know we don't need running back, but we already have 3 quarterbacks. Yeah, I'm going to go Luke Schoonmaker of Dallas. I think one of those underrated rookie tight ends that could actually be a heavy contributor. Dak Prescott likes to throw the tight end position, and they definitely need someone to step up. Maybe Peyton Hendershot stays viable as an interesting touchdown candidate there. But I don't trust Jake Ferguson, who is actually ranked higher. Ferguson was a 4th-round pick, I want to say. And while he did score 2 touchdowns last year, Peyton Hendershot scored more. And they drafted Schoonmaker for a reason. Schoonmaker, let me just bring up Schoonmaker here in case you're still watching, because I think he's like one of the actually really interesting late-round flyers. Pretty solid receiving stats for him out of Michigan last year. 35 receptions, 418 receiving yards, 11.9 yards per catch, and 3 touchdowns in the last 2 seasons. He does have some viability in the red zone, and they took him in the 2nd round. That's a pretty solid investment in Luke Schoonmaker. And maybe I'll reference some tape on him just to explain my logic a little bit more. But let's just take a look at his game log real quick. There it is. He had a game with 7 targets, 7 receptions, 72 yards, and a touchdown. Another game with 9 for 67 and a touchdown. Another game for 5 and 70. And one more game for 3 for 56 and a touchdown. He is legit. He has some real upside, and I don't think they drafted him in round 2 to not use him. So Luke Schoonmaker, very, very interesting value in round 18 as our tight end 4 on this roster. But that's it for me. That's it for this video. And thank you for watching this live draft. I'll see you in the next one. And my name is Adam Riancho. Thank you for watching Nice and Blunt.